know that sometimes when people think of long distance relationship, they are very afraid to go into long distance relationship. They think of, oh, what if it doesn't work out? When you're in a relationship with someone you see physically is already hard enough. Now adding distance to it might be another barrier. But I tell you that there are a lot of people who have gone through it, and at some point in our lives, I think, depending on the people's situation, you might be in some kind of long distance relationship. I know of a couple who they live in the same country, but they work in different states. So they only see each other on the weekend until they decide to move together to be closer to each other. So that is a long distance relationship. They didn't initially start off as a long distance couple, but now they're in a long distance relationship. So I think one of the things that helped me and helped my relationship, or I have also learned that helps in long distance relationship, especially when it comes to sustaining it, because your end goal is not just to be in the relationship, right? It's for you to be able to sustain it and have a good connection with your partner. So it's understanding the barriers that might affect your relationship. So what are the barriers that you're currently facing in your long distance relationship? Or what are the barriers that affect the people in a long distance relationship? Are you in the same country but then in different states, or are you in different countries? If you're in the same country but different states, then you know that the barrier of time is probably not something you have to worry about, because you and your partner are in the same time zone. You just have to find the right time to connect. But if you're in a different country, then you have to deal with like being in different time zones. So understanding that barriers, a lot of the barriers that comes with being in different countries is the time difference. The time difference is very much a barrier that if you don't pay attention to, it can cause you to be insensitive. For instance, my situation, Nigeria, US is about 7 hours ahead of Nigeria, depending on the season that we're in. So during the summer right now is 6 hours, but during the winter is about 7 hours. So, and I know that when I'm working, my work is very demanding, and when I'm ready to talk, my husband is still at work or he's sleeping. So we had to make sure that we find time that worked for us. So understanding that barrier and planning to know how you can mitigate the barrier. What are the barriers? List out all the barriers. Don't let those barriers stop you from embarking in that long distance relationship, but map out what the barriers are. But before I get a little bit ahead of myself, when we go into relationship, the end goal is for marriage, because as Christians, we have our values, right? We have our principles that we follow, the principles of Christ. And that end goal is to go into a relationship. If you guys are already in a relationship, you're courting or you're married, then it's a different thing altogether. But if you're not courting or married yet, then your end goal is to, get married and to court. So before you even embark in the long distance relationship with the individual, you have to make sure that you guys have common values. And I think anyone who is in a long distance relationship might have already gone through that, making sure that this person is the person you want to be in a long distance relationship with, because it would test you. And I know the second thing I want to mention is communication. People talk about communication all the time and how communication is important and how communication, is the bedrock of a relationship or marriage. Good marriage will work with communication. But I think they don't tell us what kind of communication, because communication is important, right? But what is the end goal when you communicate with someone? You just don't want the person to hear your side or hear what you're saying, and that's it. The important reason why we communicate is so that we can connect. We communicate to connect. If you're communicating and you're not connecting, then you're obviously, you're not going to sustain your relationship. So how can you communicate to connect with someone? Make sure that when you're bringing out what you're saying, when you're communicating to your partner, that you're paying attention to what your partner is saying, not just paying attention so that you can respond, not just paying attention so that you can understand what they're saying, but paying attention so that you can understand the need for that communication. In every sentence that someone says, their need is usually embedded in that. And it's important that you pay attention to that need, because meeting that need is what is going to lead to a connection in the long distance relationship. Because you already are distanced by mileage. There's already that physical distance. You don't want there to be an emotional distance, right? So I would probably call this point communicate to connect. Yeah, that's the right word. Communicate to connect, not just communicate, or make sure you're communicating to connect, and openly discuss your concerns. Understand each other's schedule. It's extremely important that you understand each other's schedule and make sure that you are building trust. And one of the ways communication can also build trust, but if you're not understanding the need of that individual, you will not be able to build that trust. And trust is important because when I tell people, usually it was hard when I initially got into a long distance relationship. My husband and I were in a long distance relationship before we now got into long distance marriage. And thankfully now the gap has been closed. But when you tell people that you're in a long distance relationship, they give you that look. Almost like, please, it's not going to work. You're probably just the only one who doesn't know that this relationship is not going to work. They give you the look like, what if he's cheating on you? I remember one time I was actually on my way to Nigeria and I was riding on my plane. Next to my seat, I was with this woman who I told that, I was going to see my husband and he was in Nigeria. The woman looked at me. She was like, "You're such a beautiful girl. How come you're dating a man in Nigeria? How come do you think he's not going to cheat on you?" And obviously I'm a woman. When someone makes comments like that will get you thinking, right? Because if you know that you don't already have that trust, that will get your mind running wild. Try to think, okay, is he cheating on me? And that's where that trust comes in, because you know your partner, you know what they are and what they are capable of doing and what they are not capable of doing. A stranger will not know your partner more than you know your partner, and that's why it's important to build that trust. And the ways to build trust is by, over time, the patterns that you both have created. And I will share with you guys a little bit what I did that helped me build trust with my husband. So make sure that you are not projecting other people's feeling to your relationship. Make sure you're not projecting other people's expectations to your relationship. Are there people who cheat in a relationship? Of course. Even if there is no distance barrier, people will still cheat in a relationship regardless, right? But when you decide to go into a relationship with someone, like I said, you've already done that due diligence of knowing that this person has a shared value and this person is someone who you want to build a life with. So that trust is important. And when someone brings those kind of talk or sentiment to you, don't just take it, digest it in, and then go back and release it to your partner. Like, "Oh, I hope you're not cheating on me. I hope you're not seeing all those other girls," and thinking that, you need to, because we're not together, you need to perhaps do something that I will never get to find out. No, because they've projected into you. You need to have that ground calmness to be able to articulate and regulate and internalize what someone has said to you and know if you want to take it in or not. So build that trust and be present in your partner's life. In terms of building trust, be present. Sometimes the reason why I say be present is because the opposite of not being present is stalking. Sometimes people think, I don't want my partner to think that I'm not interested in their life. So now you stalk everything they do. You stalk them. I see that you're hanging out with your friends. Who is that girl sitting next to you? I see that this is happening. No, being present and stalking someone is two different things. And when you build trust with someone you're building a relationship with, you don't stalk them. You're present in what is going on in their life. You know of what is going on in their life. You are able to share into what is going on in their life. So I encourage you, if you're someone also in a long distance relationship, it's extremely important that you're present with your partner. You share with them all the time what is going on, not in an obsession or obsessive manner, but in a way that will enable them understand your day-to-day routine. Like, for instance, if you're going to go for a meeting and the meeting is going to take longer time than usual and it will eat into the time that you guys will typically talk, let your partner know, okay, I'm going into a meeting on Wednesday and I know we usually talk at 2 p.m., but I will not be able to talk to you at 2 p.m. because I'm in that meeting. So when it's time for the time you guys usually talk and you're not speaking to your partner, their minds are not running wild, right? They know that this individual is in a meeting. But if you don't communicate that to them beforehand, and then you just go into a meeting and you don't let them know, and they come out and they're upset, and when you come back and you guys are speaking and they're upset with you, there's nothing that you can tell them that will calm them down at that moment, because you hadn't set that expectation. So it's important to, in building trust, be present. And being present is both ways. And the next thing that I will add on is build your values. There are values that attracted you both to each other. There are things that made it possible for you guys to come together, whether you're courting or you're married. Build on those values. And one of the values that brought me to my husband and I together was our love for Christ. And we usually would never see ourselves going on a date. On a weekend, you don't see yourself going to hang out with your husband, like other people will. But then there are some things that we did that helped strengthen our relationship. Every Saturday, we fasted, and when we fast every Saturday, I know that my time of breaking and his time of breaking are different, but we'll pick a set time to pray together. So even though he will break at his own 2 p.m. and I'll break at my own 2 p.m., when we connect, we will pray. And that helped us in building our Christian values, fasting together. And it wasn't every day that we're talking, that we're praying together. I'm not going to tell you that that's what we did, but no, we picked out one day in the week that we will pray together, or do a Bible study together, or fast together. So those values that attracted you guys to each other, make sure you continue to build on those values. And it's important too that you're patient with each other. Stop comparing. Don't compare your partner to another person. I remember one of my girlfriend, her husband bought her a Mercedes Benz. So, and I was so happy for her, and I was, glad. My own husband is in Nigeria. He's not even earning in the currency that I'm earning, So obviously, I got to that place where I was almost like, oh my God, her husband bought her, like a Mercedes Benz. I was so happy for her. And I almost felt that sense of comparison creeping in, almost. And I remember the Spirit of God telling me, do not compare your husband's 32 years to someone else's 45 years. And I've never heard about that before, never. And I couldn't even imagine, I couldn't believe that the Spirit of God was saying that to me. But I was very sensitive to, know that comparison was creeping in. Because I had seen this car, right? I can't even boast of, some certain things at that time from my husband. But seeing, you know how women are when you're boyfriend or partner or husband buys something for you, you want every woman to see it, especially your friends, So, and the Spirit of God told me, do not compare your husband 32 years to someone else's 45 years, because you guys are just starting out. Someone who is 45, they have had some years of work experience under their belt. They have had some finances saved, but your case is different. So if I was going to call my husband up and be like, oh babe, you've never done anything for me, and this guy is buying her wife Benz, that's it's going to cause a rift in our relationship. It's going to cause instability in our relationship, because my husband most likely asked me, where is this coming from? And then I will have to now explain how my friend so I just decided, I quickly just told God, I quickly just told myself, I cancel out every spirit of comparison and every spirit of jealousy. Because the enemy can plant it in your heart at that time, and you think, oh, I'm trying to covet, because you're supposed to covet all good things, right? But no, you have to understand when it's comparison, when it's jealousy, when it's envy, and when you really need to covet. And if you're coveting something, it should be something good anyway. So I would say, be patient with each other. Be patient in you guys' process. Your story is your story. It doesn't matter who else is going through a long distance relationship. It doesn't matter whose long distance relationship is not working. They are not in your story. They are not in your journey. They don't know your partner the way that you know your partner. Their story, their destiny, the life that God has cut out for them is different from the life that you are walking into. So it's important that you are very, very, very patient with your partner. One thing that I say all the time is that sometimes we see the couples that we admire now. We see the couples that we admire now. We don't hear their story before they got to compatibility. The man of God, one time when he was ministering at gym, he said that the journey to becoming one takes a while. And when we initially come together, we don't think that the journey to becoming one takes a while. We just think, okay, we're married now. We're supposed to be thinking alike. We're supposed to be, he's supposed to be reading my mind. But you forget that you both are two individual people that needs to come together, and coming together will only happen if you both are patient with each other. So it's extremely important that you're patient with your partner, and as your partner is also patient with you, you extend that patience with them. And number 6, I would say create some good traditions. Is, you are in a long distance relationship, that doesn't mean that your relationship is not valid. Your relationship is just as valid as anyone who is, like in a short distance relationship. So make sure you create just some good traditions. When you use iPhone, I think it happens with Android as well. When a call is coming in and you're not able to pick up that call at that moment, you can send a quick message. Does that happen it happens with Android? So everyone knows what I'm about to say, right? So in my case, when there was a time I was in a meeting and my husband's call came in, because first of all, before I dive in, we have this tradition that if my husband calls me the first time, or if I call him the first time, he doesn't pick up. If the person is calling you the second time, you must either pick up or send them a text message and let them know that you cannot pick up. Because then if you don't send them a text message, they're thinking that first, remember, you're in a long distance relationship. You don't even know if the call is going through first. You don't know if the network is obstructing your calls. So the only way that the other person will know that you're getting the call is if they receive some kind of feedback from you, right? So if they send, by the time they're calling the second time, you send them a message to let them know, I'm seeing your call, but I'm not able to pick up now. Or you pick up and let them know. So one of the things that I created was, one time I was in a meeting, and my husband called me and I couldn't pick up. So I sent him those quick text messages, I'll call you back later. And when we were talking, he asked me, you sent me that message so fast. How come? And you said you were going to call me back later. But I thought that your tone was very dry. And I told him, I said, that's just an automatic message that comes with the phone. But I realized that even though it was an auto message that comes with the phone, I can customize it. So what did I do? I went into my phone setting and customized the message that every time I'm not able to pick up my husband's message, I'll customize the message that goes out to him that shows that warmth and the love. Yes. So I was very intentional. Thank you, woman of God. I was very intentional so that when that message comes across to my husband, he still feels the warmth and the love coming from me instead of being dry. Because at that moment, I don't know what he wants to discuss with me, and me not picking up the call can add to that frustration, right? So sending him that warm message will help him, maybe soften the blow of not getting the call. So, and also another tradition that we created was, it doesn't matter if we had a fight or a misunderstanding or we are angry at each other, you must never ignore the other person's call or text message. Even if you don't want to speak to them, it's fine. You can tell them, I'm seeing your call, I'm okay, I need time to process my emotions, I'll call you back later. Or I'm seeing your call, I'm not able to talk at this time, but I'll talk to you later. And it was important that we let the other person know that we are okay. Because then, you just let them know physically, I'm okay, I'm safe. So it's important that I let them know. So doing all those little, creating those little traditions. There are also other traditions that you can include in your relationship that will just make your long distance relationship a little bit better. So you never ignore each other's call, you never ignore each other's message, but instead always make sure that you respond or you send a quick message. And very, very important, number 8 is make time for face-to-face meeting. It's a goal you need to set. Obviously, life will get in the way. It can be very hard at times planning out when you will meet. Finances is another barrier that can really frustrate your long distance relationship. And I will really need to add to data is something that can also frustrate long distance relationship, because I realize that myself in the US, I have unlimited data, but my husband in Nigeria does not have unlimited data. So sometimes when I call him, he might not get my calls, or he might not be online. I had to, because initially when we started, when I call him and he's not online, I couldn't grab the concept of someone not being online. It was so foreign to me. He would be like, well, babe, I'm not online. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. How are you not online? Like, it's impossible. But I I honestly didn't understand that it was possible, because on this side it's impossible for you not to be online. Maybe I'm just not on WhatsApp, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm not online. Does that make sense? Every time a message comes in through WhatsApp, I will see it. So it's rare for me to ever not be online. So I didn't understand it at that time. So what am I trying to say? When you are prioritizing, it's important for you to set your face-to-face meeting, because when you set that face-to-face time to meet, I don't mean FaceTime, I mean like physical meeting. When you set that time to meet, what happens is that you there's an expectation, like that's excitement that you're gonna see your partner again after so many months. And it's important that you guys meet, because if you're married, obviously it's not good for you to be apart for so long without meeting each other. And then also, if you're even dating or you're engaged, it's also not good for you to be apart for so long. My husband said he doesn't want to give someone else room to make his woman happy. So don't give someone else room to make your partner happy. Don't give people room, because they're already getting you have to understand, both the man and the woman in a long distance relationship, they're already getting everyone is getting heat from their friends. They're already asking you, oh, how do you think that your wife is not cheating on you? Or how do you think your husband is not cheating on you? So don't encourage those thoughts by giving that room. So set time to meet face to face. When you guys set time to meet, make sure you optimize your meeting time. Make sure that you're planning out all the things that you have to do that will enhance your bond and connection with each other. Where my husband just moved to the US actually in the month of May. So I remember the first week when he moved to the US, we noticed that we were still rushing to do a lot of things. I will plan out, because I'm a very big planner. So I'll plan out all the activities that we have to do. So one day he held me, he's like, babe, we are not going to be apart again. So it's not like you're visiting Nigeria that we have to put out our schedule in 1 week or 2 weeks because we need to meet everything. Slow down, because now we have time to do the things that we need to do. So why did I bring this up? Sometimes when you meet face to face, there's that urge to I haven't gone on a date all year, so I have to go to 4 different dates. No, remember that you have to prioritize quality over quantity. So it's not really all the things that you need to do. It's the quality time that you spend with each other that matters. You might end up not going to a lot of dates, and you might end up just being home, as long as you're home building connection. Because when you meet, whatever connection you build that moment is what is going to carry you guys for the next time that you meet again face to face. But always make sure that you prioritize face to face. I would say a good rule of thumb is meeting at least every 6 months. Some people, at least every 6 months, I would say, but some people can, if you're able to do, every 2 months, every 3 months, by all means, please. The more often you are able to meet, the better. And even if you're not able to, travel all the way to the country where the other person is, meet in the middle. Try to find a place we can meet in, a very economical place, country that will work for both of us. Because the idea is not to have one financial burden on the other person, right? Because you both are going through this together. So prioritize, I would say my number 9 is prioritize what is important to you. What are the things that are important to you in your relationship? When you guys were doing were together, what were the things that were important to you? Make sure you prioritize those things when you are apart. So during your long distance relationship, let your priorities still be your priority. And keep each other accountable. My husband serves in the church as a sanctuary keeper. Yes. So one of the things, as a sanctuary keeper, Saturday mornings are extremely vital for them. So, and I know that. So when we're in a long distance relationship, on Friday night, we will not stay on the phone for a long time. Because for me, Friday night means, I have Saturday and I don't have to go to work. He doesn't have to go to work on Saturday as well. So we can stay on the phone for 8 hours. However, knowing the fact that he has another commitment. He might not be going to work, but he needs to go to church at 5 a.m. to, clean up the sanctuary. Then it makes me mindful. So it's important that you prioritize what is important to each other. What are the things that are important to your partner? Prioritize those things, because that will also make them know that you value them and you share in the things that are important to them. And I would say also, let there be a timeline to the distance between you. Most of the time it's a little hard to put a timeline on the distance between you. If you're going through a visa process, you don't know when the other party will get a visa, so it's hard to put a timeline. If you're going through a school, if you're in school, you don't know when. Typically you will know when you graduate from school, but you don't know the time, some of a certain timeline. Just put an estimate. Let there be a timeline to how long do we intend to be in a long distance relationship with. And how long do we intend to stay apart for. So make sure that even if you don't have an exact timeline, have at least an estimate on when this long distance relationship will be over. And I like to write a lot. I believe that writing is one of the important ways of communicating with the Father, and many people have to find out what works for them. The Bible says, write the vision, make it plain, that they may run that reads it. And it was actually during our long distance relationship that I got this revelation that when you write the vision, and I write a lot, like at the beginning of the year, I write what I want in my life. In the middle of the year, I will write. So writing is, journaling. Just putting on my phone, I have different goals, yearly goals that I write out. And in those goals is where I put in my expectations of when I thought I wanted our long distance relationship to be over. Now, it was important that I also got my husband's agreement, because now I want the long distance relationship to be over, right? But what if he doesn't want it to be over, or he doesn't share in that at least yet? So it was important that we both agreed. And when we both agreed that we wanted the long distance relationship, we gave it a timeline. What did I do? I started writing it down. My expectation of when I wanted my vision, our long distance to come to an end. So I was talking about write the vision, make it plain. The reason why you have to write the vision and make it plain is because anyone that reads with that vision will have to run with the vision that you've written. When the angel of the Lord reads your vision, they will run with it. It's almost like it's a mandate. When you read it, you run with it. It's extremely important that you put a timeline on your distance. And then while you're waiting, please make sure you're having fun. While you're in a long distance relationship, make sure you're having fun. Make sure that you're having shared activities, like that, maintain that connection. And remember that commitment is really one of the things that makes a relationship work. And you don't just communicate, you communicate to connect. So as long as you have the connection, as long as you have the trust, as long as you have the shared values and the commitment, your long distance relationship definitely will work. And as long as you're not letting people project into you. So it's important that the expectation is set. So that's why I started off, when you are going into a long distance relationship, if you're already not married, it's important that the goal is for you guys to get to know each other better so you can get married, right? And if you're married, the long distance relationship is for a short period of time, pretty much. So it's important that there's a contest. What is the expectation for the promise? Does the other partner know that they need to make this promise? And is this something that they can make? Sometimes we want people to make promises. Can they make promises? Can they promise this? Can they even keep that promise? So if you give me a little bit of context, it will help. One of the ways to know that a long distance relationship is trustworthy is knowing the pattern that the person has shown you. When they say that, because when you're in a long distance relationship, the only thing that you really hang on to is what the person says to you. If they tell you, I'm in Lagos, you take their word for it, because even if you have a family in Nigeria, who's to say that your family is going to stalk your partner to know if they're really in Lagos? So the way to know that I can trust this person or my relationship is built on trust is, what is the pattern that I've shown you before now? Are they patterns that you've trust? Have their words become their bond? Are they able to keep to their words or the things that they have said? Do they cross that? When you cross check what they are saying and their action, does it match? Then you know that you're in a trustworthy relationship. I would say, first of all, it's a little tricky, because then it also depends on who is able to visit. So in my case, I was in a long distance relationship, but my husband couldn't just come to the US because he would need to get a visa, right? What if he applies for a visa he cannot get? But in my case, I'm an American citizen, so I don't need a visa to, to go to Nigeria. Or even if I needed a visa, I can get a visa at the airport once I land to Nigeria, right? So who is able to is the first question, because you might be in a relationship with someone who might not be financially buoyant to afford a flight, and then you are in a position where you can. So it depends on who is able to. It's not really who should first, but who is able to. And I know that we also are taught that men should take the lead, and I definitely think that I'm not disagreeing that men should take the lead. But also, if you know your partner well enough, you know what they can and cannot do. But I would say in a long distance relationship is extremely important. I don't think I can stress this enough, that someone in your family know that you're in a long distance relationship, and they know the details of who you're in a long distance relationship with, because no matter what, safety comes first. Even if you think your parents might not necessarily agree or welcome the person you're in a relationship with, let them be aware. Typically it should be daily, but there are some circumstances where maybe the other individual might not have access to phone connection, so then you guys can have an agreed time to communicate. But typically it should, ideally it should be daily. You should be able to communicate with each other. Even if you might not be in a long phone conversation, you should at least get a text message from someone. There's absolutely there's nobody who is too busy to be able to attend to someone. They can, even if they cannot talk, they will let you know, I can't talk for now, and this is the reason why I will talk to you later. So ideally it should be daily, but there are some situations that might be different.